Let me ask you a question first. Friend or family? Family. Okay. What you do is, you have them come over to your house, right? Have them come to your home, and turn off the Wi-Fi. Basically, shut the power off in the house. Pull out the candles, say, I don't know what happened, must be a short. And then, while everyone's sitting there, start a conversation. And as you're having a conversation, there may be a little food, you know, a little tea, whatever. And you're all sitting there in the dark, or candlelights, right? And you're talking. And you always direct questions to this particular person, because they're going to pull out the phone and try and go from there, right? But you start directing questions, right? You start directing questions. You know, if you want to be bold, just snatch the phone away. Say, look, we're talking now. This is talking time. And then allow them to experience that moment, right? Because the point is that you have to, there was one of the Khalifas, he had, I forget, I want to say it's Omar II, very ascetic person. And one day he got all of the governors together at his house. And, you know, they've been living very posh lives, eating big plates of food, you know, like the size of his plate, rice, big piece of sheep, right? And they're just living like this, right? So he invites them to where his Khalifa, you know, his, I'm not going to say palace, because he didn't have a palace, but his home. And what he did was, he told everyone the food will be here shortly, just wait. So meanwhile, everyone ate dates and had milk. He just started passing around. Everyone's eating the dates, everyone's drinking the milk. Right? And they kept saying, where's the food? Oh, I'll be here in a minute, just, you know, don't worry, just enjoy the dates for right now. And everyone kept eating dates and drinking the milk. And then finally, after about, you know, some time passed, he goes, okay, the food is here. And everyone's like, whoa, no, we don't even want to eat, we're full. And he said to everyone, now this is interesting, how all of you men been eating so extravagantly and wasting food and all these things, and the people that you're supposed to be protecting are eating less than what you are, and here you are getting full off the dates and milk. Which shows that this was satisfactory, this was sufficient. You don't need more than this. You know, and because of his presence, and he wasn't quite like me, it was much more dramatic and more powerful. Everyone started crying because they realized that they had been mistaken. They had allowed their greed and their positions and everything else to blind them to a reality. So for many people, sometimes you've got to show them. In other words, allow them to experience something, right? So again, you have to find a way to get them to the house, whether it be or to the park or wherever, and then you have to provide a togetherness style environment. So we're going to talk about this, or you know, we're going to play a game, and everybody has to participate, and make that person the host, right? Make that person be the mediator of the game, because once they're involved, then they start doing things, and then maybe later you might want to say at the end, after everything is said and done, then explain to them, you know, didn't you feel good? Didn't this make you feel this way? And see what they say. Now, they may not experience anything, so you got to be prepared for that. You know, because a drug addict is just gone sometimes, and it takes time. It took them a while to develop that way. It's going to take a time to get them off of that, right? Just like any other addiction. But the thing is that you've got to start by allowing them to experience something, and I think that that's a good way to do it. Inshallah, maybe that helps. Any other questions? Yes.
I should really just make a comment, just talking about the whole thing with social media. And I have a phone that looks like this, and I'm probably one of the only people who does. A phone like this. And yesterday I had an Arabic class yesterday evening, and I was one of the only people that didn't know that the exam was going to be on because I don't have WhatsApp. And it's also, you know, I've also been out of the country, so, you know, but had I had WhatsApp, I would have known in Jordan that I was going to have this exam. And, you know, when I walked into the class, nobody even asked where you'd been. and how are you? And it's not that I'm expecting anything from the people, but it's just very interesting that people are so connected to this, to this, basically. I was living in Malaysia a while back, and I came back in 1998, and that would have been about 4 years after the internet really took off. We had a really good, I found a very, very good social network of women, and we used to spend a lot of time together with each other, with the children. I'm now a little boy now, and most of my friends' children growing up, but at that time, most of my friends had small children. And now everybody's sending stuff out on Facebook. And there are sisters here today that I very rarely see, but they might be on Facebook, and they may even have events going on, but there's no personal interaction. I don't make much effort myself anymore because I'm on my own with the guy, but it's just really interesting to see that change within the Muslim community. Everything that you're talking about today, everything. And in Jordan, what was so nice is, it's because people don't have the money, but you don't see smartphones. You see these.
Right.
Or these. And more social interaction.
Right.
As a result. So it's just a comment.
No, thank you.
Following on from what you said.
Alhamdulillah. Speaking of events, there were some events that, like you said, they get posted on Facebook. And I was talking to one of my mates, and I was like, how did you know about this program? And you were there, you went out of town, you didn't tell me. And he said, it was on Facebook. I said, but I'm on Facebook. I didn't see it, and I'm not going to see it because you have to be connected to certain people in order to see it. So if you don't have the right connections, you still miss out. You know what I mean? Because no one does the old school flyers, as much as they used to. No one does that. It's just a big thing posted on a page, and people say, hey, put this on your page and like it real quick, so your friends can see it, or that kind of thing. And it just becomes a little bit too much. Again, I'm not into promoting myself, and I'm not going to, so I don't like putting stuff on my page just so people can see, because that's, what is that really saying? What am I doing? You know what I mean? But I understand exactly what you're saying.
It's just the whole social thing. We were one sister who was hoping to come here today, and actually when I said to her on WhatsApp, and that's why I didn't know about the exam, she said, oh well, great for you. She said, because this weekend, I'm going to try and switch this off because my children are sick and tired of this thing going ping, 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 and I'm not even involved in that conversation. It's got absolutely nothing to do with me.
Right.
But this is the world that we're living in today.
Sure.
This is how, and I think we're doing that. If I could, I probably would have a smartphone. And I would probably be doing what everybody else does. But it's really interesting to see, just in the last 50 to 20 years, how even the Muslims, we've changed so much, because like you say, we're just following what everybody else is doing.
Well, at the same time, I want to say that social media is not all evil.
Sure.
I do want to say that. I want to make sure that I said it. Right? It's not all evil, and there's a lot of benefits. There's still benefits. But the thing is, we have to stay in tune with who we are, and that's kind of what I'm saying. We got to stay in tune with who we are. Or as like one scholar used to say, we have the dunya in the hand, but not in the heart. Right? So we're aware of who we are. We've got these things, we use them, but it doesn't affect us that way. So we're able to still function properly and understand and keep things in this proper perspective. Right? Yes, I can use these things because, hey, I've been talking to this brother for the past month, back and forth and back, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I'm in, at that time, at first, I was in the Dominican Republic, and I'm talking from the Caribbean to a guy up in Scotland. Wow, this is deep. But, you don't want that to run your life and things like that. Sometimes these social medias, cause arguments because, when you're chatting, you don't really understand what a person's really trying to say. Because you can't tell the intonations of the voice. You don't know if it's really a joke or if the person's serious, and then you start getting offended and things like that. So you have to, make a statement and throw a smiley face next to it. Just so people understand, okay, he's joking, but is he really joking? This kind of thing, because you really don't know. So these kind of things become kind of difficult to still kind of deal with. But again, we keep it in proper perspective. Like I said, we use it for the good that it has, and we try and reject the rest. That's it. Any other questions?
Well, I think just to add on that, just because you mentioned it, we have been going back and forth trying to sort of get the final points of what today's topic will be. But just to maybe add to that, I think that certain things that we were taught in the Dean in terms of, certainly interaction in terms of adults, we just try to maintain those things when we're on these social media and all in our sort of internet interactions. If we can manage to maintain those things and not just because of the nature of the medium that you're speaking in has those attitudes or etiquettes that you forget your Islamic adab when you're doing it. So it's always about trying to maintain your good manners, even on the keyboard.
Right, and you have to, because you really don't know who's on the other end.
Yeah, or who's listening in,
Exactly.
or who's reading your conversation.
Exactly. Well, I'll give you a good example. There was a young man who was courting a young sister, right? And she asked him, how do you feel about disciplining children? Because I believe in spankings. And he said, well, I don't know about spanking children, but you can spank me, right? And she didn't know that the girl's father was standing right there. Because he was the one telling her, ask this question because we need to know what to expect, because she had small children. And so he writes this back, and then a message came back. This is Fatima's father. Don't call back again. Just shut it down. And, this guy, couldn't show his face. Couldn't show his face for a little while because of sheer embarrassment. You don't know you don't know who you're talking to. They say that about small kids because, they could be talking to adults and they get these bad conversations and they could be pedophiles. You looked on Facebook or Instagram, you saw these pictures of a girl, but it's really some guy. And you're chatting, talking about let's meet and this kind of thing. You don't know. I mean, how many spoofs and comedy shows are about some guy who get the muscles and all this, and then when you finally meet him, he's all old and shriveled. He's got a gut out here, this kind of thing. There's nothing like his picture. Or the one that's nothing like her picture. So again, there's a falsification that's being personified, right? People are hiding behind certain things instead of being honest and truthful and just being themselves. And this is kind of what we're talking about. Yes.
I think another issue, especially with Muslim community, I've noticed a lot of times when you see on Instagram or something, there seems to be what's called haram police, people who put comments and give their opinions that are really rude and really sort of judgmental.
Right.
And again, sort of etiquette and how to speak to other Muslims and how to, if you do have a judgment, do it privately rather than shaming the person. It's still public even if it's online.
Right.
And it just feels like not everyone, but a lot of people seem to put aside your general niceties or the way you would somebody in person.
Right.
Online, it's like you can just drop all it in and you go, someone who
No, absolutely.
person.
Sure.
It's really hard.
Right. But see, here's the thing. We're saying about being connected and getting back to our humanistic state, right? Our sensibilities. Because we have to remember that our goal is not about just screaming about what's haram or what's halal, right? To say, oh, I did my Islamic part, I shut it down, and I told them, and I let them have it, and I brought this hadith, and I brought that ayat, and this, that, and the other. Who cares? The thing is that we're trying to win the hearts. And if you came on my page and you started all this stuff, delete. And I don't even want to talk to you anymore. Because you have just hardened my heart towards you. So now I don't want to have a conversation with you. If I see you, I'm definitely not talking to you. Oh, why'd you block me? Because of your comment. Why are you even talking to me? And you get this type of attitude, it becomes crass. We're trying to win hearts, not arguments. But again, we have scholars who will post things on certain sites, and then you got a bunch of people, well, I heard this, and I read that, and Sheikh so-and-so said this, and that person said that. Wait a minute, this person is notable. Now, they may have given a ruling or said something that you don't necessarily agree with, but it's not for you to jump on there like you're the instant scholar. You went to Mufti Google and read a few things, and then you came back, well, I read this on this page, and this says this. I'm trying to tell you what I studied. I'm telling you what you just read and researched. I'm telling you what I studied. And even that research is not even real research. You just read something someone wrote. You didn't go look at the books. You didn't go back and check the dalil. You didn't go back and check the commentaries on those particular ayahs of Quran or verses or hadith. You didn't do none of that. All you did was hear this. You said, yeah, that's what fits. That's what I feel. And now I'm coming back to you and telling you what's right or what's wrong based on what I read. No scholarship. And that in and of itself is a poor level of adab. A completely poor level of adab. If I write and say, Sheikh so-and-so said this, this, and this, and then you want to tell me what this one said, and that's wrong, and this wrong, and he's not this, and he's not that. I didn't post that for you to write that. I posted it so you can benefit. Now, if you don't agree, don't agree. But don't sit there and mess my page up, because all it's going to be is delete.
Sorry, you had a question or comment?
Yes, there was a few things that you said that really touched me really, really nice. Some notes down. One of the things you did mention was about meditation and how we should advise to adopt some meditation in our health. So I just wondered what your advice on actually practicing some meditation is from an Islamic perspective.
Allahu Akbar. Okay. First thing is Imam al-Haddad, he says in one of his texts that you should take it, everybody should at least have 5 minutes, the minimum, 5 minutes, in which you could do a couple of things, 3 things actually. One, read a little Quran, or find like one of those books that have there's a book by Imam Ghazali called The Jewels of the Quran, and it has very beautiful ayahs from the Quran. And you can take one of those, just read it, and then close the book, or just read the Quran itself, right? Whether it be Arabic, English, whatever language you like, whatever you understand. Read it, close the book, sit back in a chair. You don't have to sit with your legs crossed and all like this if you don't like. Sit where it's comfortable. And sit and just breathe. Right? Through the nose, inhale, exhale out the nose. And even with breathing, it shouldn't be stomach out here and back. It should be up for the ribs. And concentrate on breathing. That's the first part. Then begin to think about the ayah you just read. And not so much trying to decipher all the aspects of it, but just kind of reread it in your mind. Just reread it 2-3 times in your mind. Right? And then you might start kind of thinking about, okay, what does this mean for me? Now, these are Allah's words, so what is Allah trying to teach me? You might ask that to yourself. But you keep the breathing and you keep thinking about it, right? And you'll see some results from that. That's 1. 2, again, just sitting and clear. And all of it has to do, you got to clear your mind too, because you can't be thinking about all these other things. You've got to master the art of being still. They used to say about the Sahaba, when the Prophet ﷺ used to be talking, birds could land on their heads and they wouldn't move because they were so focused on the Rasul ﷺ. So you have to kind of get into that mode. Practicing and mastering the art of stillness and just being still and just think of Allah. Some scholars say like you might want to have the word Allah in front of you. So you can just look at it and see Allah. And then you close your eyes. Or you keep focusing on the name of Allah. And then you just kind of sit and breathe. Slowly, not fast, but slow and deep. Right? That's 2. 3. Same thing, breathing, clearing your mind, and just think to yourself, Allah's watching me. Allah knows me. Allah hears me. Allah, in His knowledge, is aware of everything that I do. And just continuously say that as you're breathing. Those are some good ways to start. There's actually a video on YouTube called Islamic Meditation. A brother by the name of Sheikh Muhammad Mendez. he actually goes through this whole thing. So you can look there to get more information. This is just a good way to get started. You know, if you can do what I've just mentioned, I mean, like I said, you can go home, and anytime you know that you have a few minutes, you know, but the key with everything is consistency. To really feel and benefit from it, you have to be consistent, right? So today you do it, and then in 3 days you don't do it. Then you do it after the third day, but then there's a whole week that passes, you don't do it again. And then you'll find some benefit, but not as much as you would if you could be consistent. So you just find the time, and like I said, don't try and go, oh, I'm going to do 45 minutes of meditation. You know, build up to it. Like go to anything, and when you start jogging, you're not going to jog 10 miles in one day. You'll be happy to get 2 blocks, you know, without having to walk. So you want to take your time in this, ease into it, right? So start out 5 minutes, then move up to 10, 15, you know, 13, 11. Always keep it odd. A lot likes the odd numbers, right? So you just kind of work it out this way, and then inshallah you'll find your benefit.
What kind of benefit is it gain?
Your own experience. As I said earlier, you can't go looking for what I get. This is your level, this is your journey through discovering you. So I can't tell you what you're going to get or what you're going to feel. Whatever Allah decides to give you is what He gives you. But never think, well, I didn't feel my heart didn't do this. Or I didn't feel all relaxed. I didn't feel this, that, and the other. You're not looking for, don't look for results. Don't look for signs of success. Just be. No come. Just be. If nothing else, you've mastered breathing. You've mastered clearing your mind. You've mastered focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In one way, that's enough. But there may be other things that you might get. There may be other things that you may experience. And those things are just for you and you alone. Those are Allah's gifts for you. Because that's you discovering you. You are not me. So you can't expect to get what I get or feel what I feel or taste what I taste. Right? Honey for me may taste one way, and I can't describe it. Because you got to taste it yourself. And even then it's different. Right?
Last question.
I love when you said that we are not creatures of desire, we're supposed to be creatures of soul.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could tell us, say a bit more about how we can experience ourselves as creatures of soul more than we might be achieving at the moment.
Right. Well, much of just what I said with her in terms of the meditation is just really about first it's about reflecting on you, right? It's about you being aware of who you are, about you understanding, okay, what makes me me, right? What makes me me? What makes me tick? What makes me happy? What makes me sad? You know, if there are certain ways that you're living, okay, if you are a Muslim, then you know that there are certain things that we're supposed to be doing in terms of when we pray and these things. And even when you pray, how are you spending time in your prayer? If you're not Muslim, if you're a person of prayer, how do you spend your time in prayer? If you don't pray, how do you spend your time alone? And what are you gaining when you are alone? And how are you spending your time? What are you doing? You know, you might be reading, you might be just, I don't watch TV, I read. Or I don't read, I listen to jazz. Or I listen to, relaxing music. Right? Okay, that's fine. But the thing is, in that time, what are you gaining? What are you learning about you? You see what I'm saying? So, if you are a person of prayer, well, in your prayer, is there connection? Are you aware that God is in front of you inside your prayer? Because like the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that when you enter prayer, enter with khushu' and hudur. Khushu' means reverence, hudur means presence. For the Muslim, when we recite the beginning chapter of the Quran, which is Al-Fatiha, Al-Fatiha, when you go back and look at it, is nothing more than a dua. I'm not reducing it to a dua, but what I'm saying is it's a dua. Because we wind up praising God first, And then the next thing we do is say, وَإِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. To you do we worship, and to you do we seek aid, help. So who is you? Why are we saying you? Because we're talking to God. اهْدِنَا الصِّرَاطَ الْمُسْتَقِيمَ. And guide us in the straight path. Now we're asking for something. We praised. We said, no, I'm focusing on you for help in my prayer, my worship, and for worldly needs. And now I'm asking you to keep me firm on the straight path. The path of those whom you favor, not those who you become angry with or who have been led astray. So that's a dua. You're asking for something. So in that Fatiha, there should be an understanding that you're talking to God. You're speaking to Allah, and therefore there should be more presence. You should be speaking in your prayer just like you're talking to me now. You almost have to focus in your mind that God is right there in front of you, even though God is not an entity. But you almost have to feel that way to make sure that you know when you're saying this thing, whether it's silently, whether you're in group, or whether you're by yourself, God is still there, and He's present with you in your prayer. And you have to be aware of that, right? That's one of the reasons why when we say Allahu Akbar, this is called the takbir al-ihram, meaning that it is not permissible to do certain actions once you make this call. You can't eat, you can't drink, you shouldn't be talking. Why? Because there should be nothing more than focus on your Creator. So therefore, when we're here and we're reciting, again, we're in the conversation. And in a sense, that is a connection. I mean, in a sense, it is a connection. I want to say, in a sense, it's a form of meditation because we're focusing our energy and ourselves before our Lord. You see what I'm saying? So we're praying. Our prayer now becomes from being just some action to a conversation. It becomes something that is connected to our Creator. So there. So if you're not Muslim and you pray, it's no different. Your prayer is prayer. Now supplication is something different, but even with supplication, God is listening to what you're saying. He hears you in your dua. In your supplication, He hears it. So even when you're praying, when you pray here like this or like that, you don't care. Or if you're just praying like this, it doesn't matter. The fact is, when you supplicate, God hears, and there should also be a level of certainty even in that dua. So there's connection. And through that connection, you begin to remove yourself from that desirous person. You see? Because now this is a connection. So we're removing ourselves from that desirous self to the spiritual self, i.e. the soul. Right? And that's just in prayer. If you're fasting, right? Understanding that your fast is for God. It's not for weight loss. Right? It's not so, or even for bragging purposes. Your point of fasting is so that you can find a connection once again with God. You can reconnect. Because, Allah says in the hadith that all actions done by the children of Adam are for them, except for fasting. Fasting is for me. Why? Because nobody knows. Because I can see you pray, I can see you give charity, I can see you go to Hajj, I can see you, treating people nice, I can see you with good character. I can see that. I can't see you fasting. Nobody knows except you and God. That's it. So therefore, that practice is really when we're at the heightened level outside of prayer. This is when we're at the heightened level of connection to God. Again, this is where we remove the desirous self and becoming part of that spiritual self. Why? Because we're removing ourselves from the material. You want to eat. You want to drink. You want to relax. You don't want to go without food. You don't want to have to feel sleepy. Right? You don't want to have to go without. But see, now we're doing rejection of the mundane, of the material world, and turning ourselves to something spiritual once again, in tune with our spiritual self. So there's prayer, there's fasting. And even many of the gurus, they do what? They fast. The Buddhists, they fast. For what reason? For spiritual connection, to remove themselves from the desirous self and placing oneself into a level of spirituality, right? So there's prayer, there's fasting, there's just your meditation, and even sometimes in the way that you deal with people. Right? There are people you may not like. But just forcing yourself to say hello to them and smile. That's a lot. But that's also defeating the desires of the self to want to be angry. And you know, it takes a lot of energy to be angry at people. You see them coming this way, you're going that way. They're coming in, you're going out. It takes a lot of energy. So when you just throw that away and you force yourself to smile and just say hello, that's beating the desire itself in terms of developing character. You see what I'm saying? So the roads to the developing and reconnecting to the spiritual self are many. Are many. A man was looking at his watch, so I don't want to take too much more time. I want everyone, but I want to give you at least something so you can work with, if that's your choice. So I think just with those, it's a lot of work. It's not easy. Everything I've said is easier said than it is done. But that's part of the journey, right? And that's part of the beauty. Hey, let's go through a little struggle right now. Let's just go through the struggle. Because our days in this life are numbered. But the next life is forever. There is no number for that. There's no number for forever. I may live to be, 60, 70, maybe 80. I might, but these are numbers. It's being it's being qualified, quantified as to how long I might exist. Even though I really don't know, but there's going to be a number. He died at this age. But forever is forever. So let's go through a little struggle right now to achieve something greater later. And if we have the ability, and God blesses us to be people who are in tune with the spiritual self, that's a great gift. And it has to be thanked, meaning you have to thank Allah for giving it to you, for allowing you to realize it. And it also has to be nurtured, because just as you get it, you can lose it. So it has to be maintained. I hope it helps.
Thank you so much. Well, I think you've given us a lot, given when you started, you wasn't sure exactly what you're going to give us. I think we've all benefited greatly from your talk today, so thank you so much for your words and for your advice as well. We're going to wrap it up there just now. The library shuts in 20 minutes. We'd just like to thank Ustad Jamal for taking the time to come to Edinburgh today. I think he's back to Glasgow this evening. So I'm not sure whether we actually have time for tea and biscuits, but please help yourself to biscuits. Brother Naeem at the back of the room there with the blue scarf on, he's brought through some books. Please have a look at them, and if you're interested in buying any of those books, just speak to Naeem. Interestingly, one of the things for our organisation has been we've recently got more people on our Facebook and on Twitter. So if you do want to find out more about our events, please join us on Facebook and Twitter. Or speak to Sister Sasha, she'll keep you connected with her mobile. The irony of it all. We are a charity. We don't have any funding from anywhere really specifically. So if you enjoyed today and you'd like to see more talks in the future, there's a small donation box at the back. If you could contribute something, that would be greatly appreciated and help us with our work in the future. I think that's just about it. So if I could maybe just ask if you could maybe just finish off the gathering with a short dua, and then we can go on our way. Jazakallah khair.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع وتوب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. Oh Allah, we ask and pray that you allow us to be able to become increased with love for you, increased with love for your messenger. We ask that you will fill our hearts with the light of Islam, with the light of your love, and the light of your guidance. Allah, we ask and pray that you allow us to return to the purpose of our creation. We ask that you will allow us, O Allah, to regain what we've lost in terms of our senses and our understandings of who we are and what we are. O Allah, we ask that you allow us to discover our souls and our hearts. We ask that you allow us to nurture it and to allow it to grow. And we ask that from it we find nothing more than the closeness and nearness to you. We ask and pray that you will continue to guide us and strengthen us. We ask that you will forgive us for our sins and allow us a new journey, O Allah, to righteousness. We ask and pray that you will continue to protect us from ourselves. We ask and pray that you will protect us from those distractions that would keep us from understanding ourselves and understanding you, O Allah. We ask and pray that you will continue to allow us to take a journey, a cognizant, a conscious journey, and to begin a conscious revolution of self. We ask and pray that you will continue to allow us these things and more. We ask that you bless us with success in this life and the hereafter. And we ask that you will protect us from the trials and tribulations of this life and of that of the hereafter. We ask that you bless us with firdaus. We ask that you allow us to enter into paradise. We ask that you allow us to develop wonderful relationships in this life, that we will have them eternally. We ask and pray that you will protect us, guide us, keep us, and have mercy upon our souls, and increase us in love for you and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, walhamdulillah.